The movie begins with a tense exchange over military radios as soldiers frantically report an unexpected attack by these enigmatic creatures across the globe.
This is Netherland, Colorado. Most of our town is destroyed, but everything above 8,000 feet is completely untouched.
Despite their efforts, the military is swiftly overwhelmed. 3 years later, the remnants of humanity have taken refuge high in the mountains, as the monsters are unable to ascend above 8,000 feet above sea level. In the Colorado Rockies, a small town shelters a group of survivors. One of them, a boy named Hunter, ventures below the safe altitude line to use binoculars and get a glimpse of a neighboring settlement perched on a distant mountain. On his way back, he notices a glowing red light trailing him. A monster has picked up his scent. Hunter sprints up the slope toward the clearly marked safe altitude boundary. Just as the creature closes in, he crosses the line, and the monster stops its pursuit. At home, Hunter recounts the encounter to his father, Will. Furious, Will reprimands him for risking his life and reminds him of his weak lungs, which could have given out during the chase.
You're on oxygen every night.
Later, Will goes hunting with Caddy, a friend of his late wife, Tara. He explains that Hunter often goes below the boundary to look at the other community. Caddy sympathizes. Hunter misses having peers his age and longs for someone to play with. But Will adds that it's not just about loneliness. The place Hunter visits is where he last saw his mother. While tracking a deer, Will and Caddy successfully bring down their prey and start heading back with their haul. On the way, they notice their neighbor, Nina, tinkering with makeshift armor-piercing rounds. She's testing them on a piece of a monster's tough, almost indestructible scales. Before the apocalypse, Nina was a brilliant scientist dedicated to her work. Now she dreams of discovering a way to kill the creatures. That evening, Will hears a warning beep from the inhalation machine his son uses at night. He quickly replaces the filters so Hunter can breathe. Born prematurely, Hunter has underdeveloped lungs that could fail at any moment. Realizing the stock of filters is running dangerously low, Will decides to risk a deadly trip to the lowlands, specifically to Boulder. He believes the hospital there might still have supplies. The next day, Will spends time with Hunter, teaching him how to protect their potato plants from the cold and showing him how to catch fish properly. It's Hunter's birthday, so Will goes to the town store and buys the last packet of macaroni and cheese, Hunter's favorite dish, to make a special dinner. As they eat, Hunter laments his lack of social interaction and asks why they don't use the radio to communicate with others. Will explains that their electricity is barely enough to power Hunter's machine, and they stay in touch with other shelters by using flags. After dinner, Caddy stops by with a couple of beers. Sitting on the porch, she and Will reminisce about their carefree lives before the apocalypse while watching Nina's latest experiments. Later that night, Hunter has another respiratory attack, forcing Will to use an emergency syringe of medicine since they've run out of machine filters. Realizing he's out of time, Will heads to Nina's house in the middle of the night.
How's the drinking?
Keeps me from killing myself. How's yours?
Keeps me from killing you.
From their conversation, we learn that Nina once ventured to Boulder's labs to gather chemicals and equipment for her research on weapons against the monsters. It was during that trip that Tara, Will's wife, was killed. Will harbors deep resentment toward Nina for leading Tara to her death. However, because Nina is the only one to have ever returned alive from such a trip, Will asks her to accompany him to the hospital. Nina refuses, calling the idea as sheer madness, as the creatures would tear them apart. Will insists she owes him.
You owe me this much. For Tara.
Pointing out that she has nothing left to lose. He leaves confident she will eventually join him. After Will departs, Nina begins crafting a special compass. Haunted by flashbacks of her last excursion, when she witnessed the monsters slaughter her friends, including Tara, Nina is consumed by guilt.
Nina! Why can't hold my breath any longer?
In the end, this guilt compels her to agree to the mission, and she goes to Will. Will asks a local woman to look after Hunter for 5 days while he ventures to retrieve the filters. In the morning, Will stocks up on weapons at the armory for the journey. Caddy finds him there and confronts him for leaving without saying anything.
You're just gonna run off and get yourself killed without saying a word, like Tara. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for.
Yeah, it was.
It's clear she has feelings for him. Determined, Caddy grabs a gun and insists on joining the expedition.
Katie, what are you doing?
Going with you.
No, you're not.
Not asking permission, Will. You can't go out there alone. You need a partner to watch your back.
Right, Nina's going with you.
Oh, I'm definitely going now. We're gonna have to fight them eventually, Will. It might as well be today.
Outside, Nina is already waiting. She warns Caddy that the monsters up close are nothing like the ones she's used to seeing from the mountaintop. They tear through people effortlessly, and bullets don't affect them. The only way to slow them down for a few seconds is to shoot them directly in the face. Before they leave, Will says goodbye to Hunter, promising to return in 5 days. Hunter bitterly reminds him that those were the exact words his mother said before her fatal trip with Nina. The group sets off along a planned route designed to minimize their time below the safe altitude. To save time, they intend to use a ski lift to quickly pass the lowlands. Along the way, tensions run high between Nina and Caddy, who openly dislike each other. Frustrated by Nina's attitude, Will knocks a flask of alcohol out of her hand. When they spot a wrecked military convoy below, destroyed by monsters, they decide to descend and scavenge the abandoned Toyota Land Cruisers and the remains of the soldiers for supplies. As they hike down the trail, Nina explains that her compass can detect monsters within half a mile. Their magnetic field is stronger than that of any living organism on the planet. She hands the compass to Caddy, tasking her with keeping watch while Will searches for gear, and Nina digs up a piece of armored monster scale for further research. While scavenging, Will finds an underbarrel grenade launcher, but admits he has no idea how to use it. Caddy takes it, confidently attaching it to her rifle.
I'm from Texas, Will.
I'm from Louisiana. It doesn't mean my dad taught me how to use a grenade launcher.
They prepare to continue their journey, but first exchange heated words. Nina accuses Caddy of flirting with the husband of her deceased friend, while Caddy retorts that Tara's death is Nina's fault. The argument escalates, and the two exchange blows before the group reluctantly moves on.
I don't like you, Nina. I never have.
I don't blame you, Katie.
Along the way, they encounter a large herd of wild horses, a sign that nature is thriving in the absence of humans in the lowlands. Eventually, they reach an old ski resort with a lift that will take them to the next mountain. Nina notices a monster on the compass. It's close, its warning light glowing in the forest behind them. Caddy wants to run to higher ground, but Nina argues there's no time. Will sides with Nina and sprints to the lift control room to power it up. As the monster closes in, Caddy fires the grenade launcher at it. The explosion slows the creature for a moment, but doesn't harm it. While Caddy and Nina take defensive positions and fire at the advancing monster, Will manages to restore power and start the lift. He and Nina hop onto a chair and begin ascending. Caddy, now higher up, climbs the support pole and leaps toward the moving lift. She barely grabs hold of the chair's edge, and Will grabs her arms to pull her up. Just then, the monster lashes out with a tentacle, striking the cable. The resulting shockwave shakes the chair violently, causing all three to fall to the ground. Fortunately, the drop isn't too high. Scrambling to their feet, they sprint toward the safe altitude line. They reach the boundary just as the monster halts at the edge, unable to follow. That night, the group shelters in one of the resort houses. Sharing a bottle of whiskey before bed, Nina explains how the initial attack by the creatures was so swift and overwhelming that humanity had no chance to identify their weaknesses.
It is different seeing them up close.
Civilization collapsed in mere days. She reveals that the monsters only attack humans, ignoring animals entirely, which challenges the idea that they are predators hunting for food. They don't consume their kills, they just exterminate humans. Adding to the mystery, no one has ever seen them sleep. Nina also finds it bizarre that the monsters are strictly limited by altitude, unable to climb above a certain height. Before sleeping, Will reflects on a conversation he had with Tara before her fatal trip to Boulder with Nina. He had tried to dissuade her, accusing Nina of being driven by a selfish desire to immortalize her name as the first to kill a monster. He argued that Nina, having no family of her own, couldn't understand the value of life and was willing to lead anyone to their death to achieve her goal. Tara didn't listen.
She doesn't have a family. She's never had a family.
It's just a matter of time before he runs out of filters.
That's a year from now, at least.
And the Reapers will still be down there.
The next day, the trio reaches the entrance to a mine that tunnels through the mountain and exits on the other side. Nina is shocked and furious that Will didn't warn them about this road. She reminds him that while the entrance and exit are above the safe zone, the middle of the tunnel dips below it, with multiple offshoots descending even deeper.
How do you know these tunnels are perfectly straight? That they don't bow somewhere in the middle? That would take us below the line, or did you not think about that? We're going below the line, aren't we?
Given that the monsters emerged from underground and navigated effortlessly, this route puts them at a significant disadvantage.
They come from underground, Will. They're built for it. We're not. They can see in the dark. They detect the smallest amount of CO2, which we exhale.
To make matters worse, her compass won't work properly within the mountain. Despite the risks, they strap on helmets with flashlights and venture deeper into the mine. Upon reaching the far end, they discover the exit is locked. With no other option, they descend a ladder into a lower tunnel to find an alternate way out.
So what do we do when we get to the bottom? We just start sprinting?
We can't sprint across. We'll just exhaust ourselves and make too much noise.
Worse than that, we'll quadruple our CO2 output, which they can track from a mile away. That's what that light is at the end of the tentacles.
So slow and steady. Are we ready?
No, just need a minute to ponder my own death. You're funnier than I realized.
Thanks. You're smarter than I realized.
In one of the corridors below, they cover their flashlight beams with their hands and spot a faint red glow. They take off, running. Caddy fires a grenade at the entrance, hoping to block it with debris, but the blast barely slows the creature. The group squeezes into a narrow crawl space, turning off their flashlights and holding their breath to avoid releasing carbon dioxide. The monster searches for them, its tentacle sensors probing the air. As the creature gets closer, Will ignites the flare, distracting it long enough for the group to crawl further down the tunnel. Caddy leads the way, but suddenly comes face to face with another monster, waiting in the darkness. The creature impales her with its tentacle and drags her away into the shadows. Will and Nina, devastated but unable to help, find another ladder and climb out of the mine to safety. They mourn Caddy briefly before pressing on toward a ranger's house where they plan to spend the night. At the house, Will discovers a package of macaroni and cheese, Hunter's favorite meal. He reflects on how many times he's made it for his son, who always asks for it.
It's the casein, the milk protein in cheese. It's like an opioid, as addictive as morphine.
As they sit by the fire, Nina shares her hypothesis. The monster's scales generate an electromagnetic field. If she can design a bullet that disrupts the field, it could cause the creatures to explode.
A projectile, a bullet, bonded with Pericles. It hits them. Theoretically, it creates a momentary million-volt differential, and boom, uncontrollable internal combustion.
However, she needs chemicals from a lab to test her theory. Will dismisses the idea as ridiculous and expresses regret that his wife died trying to help Nina with her crazy theory.
That's what you've been working on all this time? Literally a magic bullet.
It's not magic, it's science.
It's a guess.
It's a hypothesis.
In the morning, Will and Nina take the ranger's truck and drive down to the safe boundary where the city and hospital they need to reach are located. Accelerating down the road, they race toward the hospital. Upon arriving, they cautiously make their way inside, searching for the medical supply storage. Moving quietly up to the upper floors, they find the storage room, but the shelves are empty. Hearing a suspicious noise from the ground floor, they press onward. Eventually, Will discovers another storage area stocked with the filters he needs. He fills his backpack while Nina nervously notes the presence of a nearby monster on her compass. As they make their way toward the exit, the creature smashes through walls, trying to reach them. The pair scrambles to the next floor, but a tentacle bursts through the wall and wraps around Will, holding him. Nina swings a fire axe at the tentacle, forcing it to release Will. Activating the fire suppression system for cover, they flee down the hallway. Spotting a storage room filled with oxygen tanks, Will devises a plan. He orders Nina to run while he sets up an ambush. Waiting until the monster charges, he fires a precise shot at one of the tanks, triggering an explosion. The blast blows the creature out of the building, leaving it motionless outside. Nina, who didn't actually leave,
I thought I told you to run.
And I didn't listen.
insists they take a detour to a nearby lab instead of heading straight back to the mountains.
How much time did you just buy yourself? 6 months, a year? Then you're right back here again. We can't live like this forever. Sooner or later, we have to fight them. We can prove that they can be killed. Everyone else stuck on those mountaintops will know it. The whole world will come and fight with us.
Will reluctantly agrees. As they drive off, they fail to notice the monster stirring, coming back to life. At the lab where Nina once worked, she seems more confident. While she experiments with chemicals, coating bullets in various materials, and testing them on pieces of monster armor, Will explores the facility. He stumbles upon Nina's old office and finds a photo of her family. Shocked, he confronts her. He never knew she had children. Nina admits she lost them during the monster attack because she had gone to work that day, even though it was her day off. She confesses she's haunted by the guilt of not dying with them.
I'm sure you've had the same thought about Tara. I never should have encouraged her to come with me. I was overconfident. I thought I'd figured out a way to hold them off, and I was wrong. If it's any consolation, I hate myself more than you could possibly hate me.
I only blame you because it's easier than blaming myself. I knew she was gonna go, even after I tried to stop her, and I let it happen.
You can't blame yourself.
Neither of us can.
The initial experiments yield no results. Frustrated, Will suggests they leave, but Nina insists he should go on without her. She plans to stay and keep working. If she succeeds, she promises to catch up in her car, which has been gathering dust in the parking lot for 3 years. Will wants to help, but Nina urges him not to risk his life for her. It's her responsibility alone. Besides, Hunter needs the filters, and without them, he won't survive. Nina refines her process, using a blowtorch to help the coating on her bullets dry faster. When the compass needle stalls, signaling the approach of a monster, she notices some rechargeable batteries and decides to incorporate cobalt, a material used to create powerful heat-resistant magnets. She successfully crafts and charges her first cobalt-coated bullet just as a monster crashes into the building. Taking aim, she fires. Meanwhile, Will speeds toward the mountain in the ranger's truck, but a tire blows out, causing the vehicle to skid and crash into a boulder before flipping over. Will loses consciousness. When he wakes, it's evening. turning, he hears the growls of a nearby monster. Grabbing his backpack, he takes off on foot, running toward the safety of higher ground. The monster chases him relentlessly across the rugged terrain. As he nears the safe zone, another monster blocks his path. A third soon joins them, and the creatures close in, trapping him. Desperately, Will fires at them, knowing it's a losing battle. Suddenly, one of the monsters collapses motionless and explodes into fiery fragments. At the top of the hill stands Nina, triumphant, wielding a rifle loaded with cobalt bullets. The bullets short-circuit the monster's electromagnetic fields, causing them to explode. Nina takes down the remaining creatures, revealing their robotic interiors. The debris suggests they aren't organic but machines.
They're machines.
Programmed to target humans and avoid altitudes above 8,000 feet.
It's not a living creature. That's programming.
Their super advanced design hints at extraterrestrial origin, or maybe Chinese. It was a joke, sorry. Will and Nina return to the village, where Hunter greets his father with a tearful hug. Nina raises a flag with a Jolly Roger symbol on the village flagpole, a signal to other settlements that she has discovered a way to fight the monsters. The good news spreads over the radio, and the locals begin crafting makeshift cobalt-coated bullets using available materials. At the village memorial by the river, Nina and Will place a bullet inscribed with Caddy's name, honoring her sacrifice. Together, they set out to fulfill her dream, to fight back against the monsters. A volunteer squad armed with the new weapons descends from the mountains. The camera pans over the landscape from a bird's-eye view, revealing flashes of explosions in the distance as alien robots are destroyed. Humanity is finally fighting back. On this hopeful note, the film ends. And yes, I know they weren't Toyota Land Cruisers. I just wanted to see how many people would point that out in the comments.